Welcome to FM Corner. I'm Danny Koontz, Director of Relationship Management for Windy City Equipment. Today on the podcast, my guest is Raymond Fischer. Raymond and I have been friends for many, many years, worked together for a long time, and he is the president of Singer Equipment Company. Raymond, thanks so much for taking the time to do the podcast with me today.
Now, let me clarify, I'm president of Singer EVI, not Singer Equipment Company.
My bad. Sorry, my mistake.
Right, I appreciate the invitation. Great to talk to you.
Sure. Talk a little bit. I usually start with talking about career. Kind of where'd you start to get to where you are today?
Oh, long journey. My father started a construction company in 1968, and I was, at the time, unfortunate enough to be drug out on all the job sites and loaned out as kind of free labor, depending on, who needed what done. I got shuffled around to the electricians, the plumbers, HVAC guys. And at the time, I didn't realize, the foundation that was giving me. I worked as a superintendent for a few years, actually building restaurants, which again laid a pretty good foundation. Wound up getting recruited to go to work for Rudy Tuesdays, which is where you and I met. Was there 7 years, got, a little burnout, wound up leaving, went into working for a consulting company. We did Fortune 500 companies, PricewaterhouseCoopers, MetLife. And about, 8-9 years into that, it got really boring. Restaurants are very unique. They're fast-paced. You get to see, a lot of results quickly, and how many cubes can you put on an office floor, became a challenge. I had an opportunity to go to work for Rosa Mexicano. They were located in New York and were expanding. So I went to work for them, spent 10 years, building restaurants again. We had a change in our company, and after about a year, I decided I was ready to, move. And I had been using EVI for my restaurant equipment packages for about 6 years at that point. And I reached out to Tom Lawson and said, hey, looking to change, who's building restaurants, who are you, working with us growing. And Tom told me, I need to come to work for him. My initial reaction was, no, you're an equipment dealer. I build restaurants. That's not what I want to be doing. But Tom, he was in a unique situation, and, saw something in me that he felt like he needed for his company. Spent 6 months literally convincing me to come to work for him, which I did. That's been 10 years ago. So been here for 10 years, and it's been a very rewarding and, very good career. So very happy that I made the switch.
See it from both sides. You see it from the contractor side, see it from the supplier side, both sides, which really helps.
Yeah, Danny, I would say all three sides, because you literally have three components. You have the contractors that are building the restaurants, and then you have the operators that are, having to, either good contractor turned over a good project or bad contractor turned over a bad project, so they're getting to deal with that. And then from the equipment dealer side. So I think there's really like three sides to do.
Right. You get three. And, the operations side, whether you're building a new building or you're doing facilities, you will never do it fast enough, quick enough, so on, like everybody else.
Or cheap enough.
Exactly right. Exactly right. What is your role today involved? And what you're working on or what you do, in the current role?
Well, my current role is president of Singer EVI. I took this position almost exactly a year ago. Tom and Dana decided to retire, and Tom and Fred both, had a pretty big vote of confidence, offered me the position. And, we are at that point, coming out of COVID and, trying to figure out like, what's the industry look like now? And so today, my, day to day is, trying to take care of the customers, build the right relationships, find and mentor the right people for, the Singer team, for Singer UI's team. and navigate the challenges in the marketplace. There's a lot of things that are different, certainly from when you and I worked at, Ruby's together. The industry has changed tremendously.
Harder today, more driven by price than say 10 years ago?
I think it's much harder today, and I do think that in large part it's driven by price. There's pressure on restaurants from all sides. Equipment costs are up, maintenance costs are up, labor costs are up, lease costs are up, and the customer is, now presented with a lot more options. We've got a lot of, delivery services that didn't exist 10 years ago. So there's a lot of pressure on brick and mortar restaurants. Food trucks are, certainly a pressure these days. A lot of pressure on brick and mortar.
It's funny because you spoke of relationships and you try to build them and so on, and relationships countered against price is hard.
It's very hard.
Relationships, okay, you work through some highs and lows because for the most part, I don't want to start over. So, it's the person I know, I can work through whatever a bump in the road is. It feels more like today, in whether it's with the equipment dealer, it's on the service side. Somebody runs into a bump, they're gone. Okay, I'm going somewhere else. And
Yeah.
I mean, you're going to have a bump no matter where you are. I can go to my favorite restaurant 100 times. 5 of those times, it's not going to be good. I don't care who it is. It just happens. But
You're 100% right.
the relationship piece seems to have changed a little bit in the last.
I think in general, the relationship piece has changed tremendously. I think that there are still a lot of companies who have gone down the road of chasing price and have figured out that's not where they really want to be. I think that a lot of people find it very difficult to have conversations about price. When we, quote a job, the tendency is to, oh, it's too high, let me go get another price. When you get called out on a service call and somebody's wanting to replace, compressor, oh my God, that's too high, let me go get another price. But I think that the sophisticated customer that we, enjoy and have the most beneficial relationship with is somebody who looks beyond the price and looks at what you're actually getting for that. Are the items that you're buying, is it apples to apples? Do you have the service after the sale? Are people going to support you once that item is in your restaurant? If somebody goes out and does a compressor replacement, are they going to support you if you have problems, with that? What's the relationship that you have?
Sure. I always laughed about when people would say that's too high. I'm like, define too high. A Mercedes is too high, in my opinion, because I can't afford it. That doesn't mean that the price on the sticker is good or bad. It just means I can't afford it.
Yeah.
How are you defining? Is it because it's the number of digits in the number? What is it that automatically, like you said, tells you that compressor charge is too high? Well, look at the total cost.
Yeah. Well, and look at what you're getting. I mean, look, I don't drive a Mercedes either, but I know people who do. They're very happy with them. They're very well engineered cars. And in general, you'll see Mercedes with 200, 250,000 miles on them,
Sure.
and they're still going.
The value.
Yeah. So I think the value question comes into play when you're talking about price. What value am I getting for that price?
Sure.
And in some instances, look, one of the things that I'm sure you will recognize this, but I heard at Ruby's was, if it's, people say I have a problem. Well, if you can solve it with money, it's not a problem, it's an expense. Can you afford the expense? And, the reality is the initial upfront cost for a lot of people is the driver, and they'll deal with the problems down the road. And sometimes they win, sometimes they don't. You're just rolling the dice.
Yeah, you're exactly right. Who were your mentors, Raymond? Who's the people that kind of guided you?
Oh, I have a lot. My father, of course, Dan Bettis at Ruby's, Sandy Bell to some extent. He used to drive me nuts, but he learned a lot from him. Howard Greenstone at Rosmex Tom Lawson at EDI, and now Fred Singer at Singer. been fortunate to work with a lot of good, smart people.
You and I both work for Dan Bettis. Dan's one of mine, along with Lee Wallace, and both worked for Dan, and he was a really good man.
Yeah,
Really good man to work for.
totally.
Kind of what skills, Raymond, are you looking for the people that are on your team? What is that you're looking for?
I think the first skill is you need to be able to be empathetic. You have a guy who's trying to build a restaurant. He thought it was going to cost him, $1.5 million. He's now looking at $2 million. The situation that he's in, to be empathetic with that and to be able to have an honest conversation about that and to see what you can do to help, but at the same time, keep a level of quality that, you're comfortable with as a dealer. Or in, the case of facilities, if you're looking at repairs, it's the same thing. You got to be able to understand where people are and to be empathetic with them. So I think that's the basic skill. After that, it's the normal equipment, knowledge, a sense of urgency, a conscience. Somebody calls you, don't send it to voicemail, pick the phone up, talk to them. We get a lot of calls on weekends. Whatever is down, you can't find a service guy. Not answering your phone is not good. You need to be able to at least be honest about what's going on. So I think that is, that skill set to me is the base. The rest of it is, common sense is always great. If you can find it, that's always great. But I think, empathy, equipment knowledge, have a conscience. I think those are the basics.
Has that, not necessarily for your people, but that seems it's helped you because you did construction and you did all these different jobs. So when that guy with $1.5 million budget is now at $2 million, you've been him. You've been in that spot.
Oh, yeah.
And you have that ability to talk to him about that with some piece of that knowledge because you did it. In the same vein as I now work for a service company and I talk to facility managers all the time.
Yeah.
I've been you. I know what happened.
Yeah.
Somebody walked down the hall and took $1 million out of your budget this morning.
Yeah.
I know how that feels, and I've been that guy. And when you can do that with somebody, whether it's on the construction side or whatever it is, it tends to help because people will listen more than just, well, I'll tell you what to do, but I don't really have any idea.
Yeah.
That doesn't work. So,
and somebody with experience, which, as long as you and I have been doing this, you learn kind of what you're willing to say, okay, you can do this and drop your price, but I wouldn't recommend that you take option B because in the long run, that's just going to cost you more money. Being able to have those conversations with people, and look, it goes back to the relationship. If you have a relationship with somebody and they trust you, they've done business with you, they know that you are thinking about their best interest. Not necessarily, oh, I need to make another sale. You're thinking about what's best for them. When you develop those relationships, it becomes much, much easier to have those conversations.
Always, I can remember in Ruby's days and doing remodels or whatever and talking to contractors calling me saying, here's a problem. What do you want me to do? I'm like, what do you want to do?
Yeah.
What do you want? You're there. I'm not, I'm 500 miles away and it's 11 o'clock at night. What do you want to do? And you have to have that trust and that relationship with him. If he says, okay, I want to knock the bar out to get to, okay, how much?
Yeah.
Do it. I mean, if that's what you think, because I'm going to hold you accountable to it when we're all said and done. If that's what you think, then go do it, and have the trust that they're going to do what's right and let them be part of that process.
Yeah.
But what gets you in trouble is I don't care what you want to do. We're going to do this. And then it turns out to be wrong. And the guy looks at you and goes, I told you. You didn't hear me.
We've all had those moments because, we all, at some point in our careers, we think, we have the right answer. And look, sometimes it's a coin toss and you can go either way. And sometimes you get lucky and sometimes you don't. Sure. But having the ability to have those conversations, and look, my background, I am extremely proud of. I can have a conversation about electrical or plumbing or mechanical, floor tile, carpet. Yeah. And I've actually worn tools. I've done a lot of the work that has to be done to actually build a restaurant. And I think that brings some, a level of credibility that you don't always find.
Sure.
So
All
yeah,
part of that building the trust in the
all part
relationship.
of building trust.
Yep.
All part of that.
What would you say, Raymond's probably your biggest success, or maybe not your biggest, but one you're most proud of?
Oh, I think it's the same. Actually, becoming president of Senior EVI. Tom and Dana had a business that they had started in 1985. They had nurtured it. They had built great relationships with restaurateurs, and to be trusted to take over that is a huge compliment.
Great. Great one. Go the other way. What's a do-over you'd like to have?
Oh, geez, there's a lot. I'll tell you the one thing that I think if I had done earlier in my career would have paid off more. And that is really taking time to understand the business that you're in, whether you're in food service equipment or, real estate, whatever it is that you're in. Take time to really understand that business. What is it that makes it tick? What things outside your business affect your business? It's an education that, I mean, you can go to school, you can get an MBA, but the actual like getting into the weeds and understanding how something like COVID that, affects container prices, that drives up the cost of everything you touch,
Mm-hmm.
And just understanding how all of that's connected, will make you better able to manage your business, to anticipate issues, and to take steps to mitigate whatever is coming down the pipe at you.
Because again, the more you learn, the more you know. And I use it's a different kind of observation, but you and I both know Pat Peterson for
Yep.
a very long time. And I can remember Pat Peterson talking to me about kitchen line.
Mm-hmm.
And Danny, it's all about steps,
Yep.
steps. And I'm listening and I'm listening. Okay, Pat, I got it, but I don't have it. And I finally said, Pat, I'm gonna go with you to Atlanta. We're just gonna go to Atlanta one day. And you're gonna go around and you're gonna explain steps to me.
Yep.
And we did. And I had a whole new meaning of steps because I watched it and I saw it. And I saw the difference in having a refrigerator next to the fryer with the door on the wrong side.
Yep.
And I saw what that did. And I saw other things that he had always defined as steps and I didn't understand.
Yep.
And by learning that, and I think it goes both ways. I think when I was purchasing equipment or who I was buying it from or who the vendors were, if you take the time to explain to operations, this is the why.
Yep.
This is why I buy Delphil. This is why I do this. And here are the reasons. Either side is to get involved and make sure you're either learning or you're explaining and teaching
Yep.
someone else so that they learn. Kind of to your point, but
Yeah. And it's understanding that, like, yesterday I had a conversation. We have a project going, it's a second generation space, and budget is of course a big issue. And the decision was made by the customer to put the ice machines directly behind Expo. And my head exploded. It's like, why would you do that? So I got on the phone. It's like, hey, let's talk about this. Here's why I don't think you should do that. You're going to have ice all over the floor. You're going to have people behind the expediter trying to load ice buckets. You're going to have slips and falls. You're going to pay for this for the next 15 years. So we worked out a way to move the ice machine to where it was not directly behind Expo. And the chef is like, thank you. I didn't see that. They didn't ask my opinion on it. I'm glad somebody caught it. And, it's that kind of, the steps are, what equipment's adjacent to each other and, the things that, you don't always stop and think about in the detail that you should think about it. And learning that stuff is critical. It's huge.
It's funny you say I'm thinking ice machine as well, but I'm thinking of a customer a few months ago had a self-contained next to a mixer that did flour. Okay. I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't do self-contained for sure. And if you are, I sure wouldn't put it there. Well, that's what we're going to do. Okay.
Yeah.
A little bit down the road. Hey, this isn't working. Yeah, I know. You
Don't
know,
like that open air proofer that you got going
it's exactly right. You know, so sometimes, like you said, you get it on the front end, and sometimes they come back and they go, okay, doesn't matter to me where you put it. I actually make less money if you do it the other way,
there.
or whatever. But this is the right way, you know.
Well, and that's where you have to have the empathy to understand, there's been a mistake made. They're acknowledging it. And being somebody who wants to go, I told you so, doesn't work. You just have to, like, what can I do to help?
Sure.
You just got to always be on the side of the operator, that's trying to, get food on the table.
That's your customer.
That's your
I mean,
customer.
at the end of the day, that's your customer every day.
That
So
is 100%.
whether they're right or wrong, it doesn't matter. Your job is to help.
No, that is 100% accurate.
What do you think, Raymond, has changed the most in the equipment world the last 5 to 10 years?
Oh, there's been a lot. I think that COVID certainly changed the equipment world, and in my opinion, not necessarily for the better. I think a lot of people who had brand loyalty lost it during COVID. It became, take whatever I can get, and I think that is, I don't think that's necessarily a good thing. I think that the working remotely has become a big issue. And that again comes directly out of COVID. Tech support, getting, qualified technicians out that can actually, fix a piece of equipment. Hard to find them, hard to hire them. Cost is going up. It's affecting manufacturers, it's affecting operators, it's affecting facility managers. That is a huge change. But I think if you want to go back a little further than 5 to 7 years, I think that the industry, well, I don't think I know, the industry has started consolidating. There's 3, 4 large equipment, owners, and they own all the, verticals below them. And, that has started changing the landscape a lot. And we don't know what it's going to look like yet. It's still, still happening. Same thing's happening on the dealer side. Same thing happening on the service side.
Oh, absolutely. I was just, as you
Yeah.
were talking about that, I'm thinking about it. Very same things happening on the service side.
The consolidation is, going to continue, and it is really going to change the landscape. And I mean, you can't leave out the internet. I mean, that's a little longer than 5 to 7 years ago, but the internet has had a huge impact on the industry.
Yeah, I mean, there's a company near me, and they started doing internet sales, and that's how they grew. Was I don't want to pay a truck, and I don't want to pay these guys to come and do it, and so on. Just bring a refrigerator and drop it,
Yeah.
and I'll figure it out.
Yeah.
And
Well, what started with you can order a book online
yeah, right.
has now grown into what, most people think about when they think about ordering stuff. I mean,
Sure.
I can't tell you how many times, I have logged in, placed an order, shows up at the door. I'm a happy guy.
Mm-hmm. There you go. Yeah.
People, it's changed the shopping experience across any industry you want to talk about.
You mentioned remote, with COVID, and I work remote now, never had in my life, never had until this job. And it took a while for me. But I think what COVID did prove is that the right people can work remotely and do fine.
Mhm.
But I quantify it with right people.
Yeah, I think the challenge, and I agree with you, that the right people in the right role can work remote and it's fine. I think what you lose, though, is a sense of community with people that you work with. You don't see this, you don't see them in person. You kind of forget, accounting is handling, your invoices for your customer and your bills from your vendors. but they're also handling everybody else. So, it's like, yeah, I've got, one job getting invoiced. Why can't I get it out? Well, you got 20 other people trying to get invoices out the door, and you have accounting trying to deal with that. And you lose that empathy because you're just not with them. You don't see that that's what they're dealing with every day. You don't hear the project manager on the phone with the general contractor, like, you're not ready. I don't want to put my equipment in. It's going to get trashed, you just lose that sense of connection to people. I don't, in general, and look, I worked from home for 30 years. So I'm a really bad, kind of example of this, but in my current role, I see that there is a real need to get people together, training, imparting knowledge. How do you impart your knowledge to somebody if you're not seeing them in person and being able to have conversations? And not just, hey, I got a customer on the phone, what do I tell them?
Sure.
It's the knowledge, it's the stuff that you go off the tangents and talk about.
Well, I would go all the way back to old time Ruby Tuesday days, but you were doing construction, I was doing facilities. Several of the guys were doing, construction in the field.
Yeah.
And I would go in the office on Saturday, and you would be in the office on Saturday, and so would Schultz and Evans and Loftus, whoever. Most everybody been gone all week, and so everybody came in. And on Saturday, we went to the office, and we would all be there. And what would end up is everybody's in my office. We're all sitting around, and we're talking about the week and things and what happened and so on. But that information sharing and peace, or hey, I ran into this problem in Virginia today. What'd you do? And so on. That communication stuff, you don't, when you work remote, you don't have that person down the hall. You go down there and go, hey, let me run this by you. Does this make sense? Or whatever. You don't have that. And I think there's value in that.
There's huge value in it, and it has been, for the most part, lost with all remote work.
Yeah, makes a big difference. My last question, give me a saying or something that is kind of etched in your mind that it's your go-to. What is it?
Oh, you'll recognize this one. And I used to laugh when this stuff was said around Ruby's, because there was a lot of these little sayings that went around Ruby's. And as I've gotten older, had different jobs, they have taken on a whole new meaning. But the one my go-to is that there's no quality without consistency. If as a company we don't put out a consistent experience for our customers, put out a consistent quality of work, consistent quality of effort that we bring to the table, then how does anybody figure out, who they want to work with? They're up, they're down, and you're not sure what you're going to get. You have to maintain that high level of quality. And if you're consistent, I can figure out how to tweak it. I can figure out how to improve it. If it's all over the map, up and down, I got no clue, where do I start? So that is my go-to.
That's a great one. I tag on that for a sec. I was writing some material for an upcoming presentation, and I was talking about training. Mm-hmm. And if you don't have a standard training program, it's done by the right people and so on. And I'm in the service business, okay? I can have the greatest tech in the world, has been out there 40 years, knows how to fix anything in the world.
Yeah.
That doesn't make him the best trainer.
No.
It could be the worst trainer.
Yeah.
And if every time you hire someone as a tech, it's a different person who trains them.
Yeah.
Pretty soon you have no standards.
Yeah.
And what happens is everybody's, well, this is how I learned. I learned from this guy. Well, I learned from that guy. That isn't how they do it. There's nothing to your standards. So speaking about consistency and quality in the same vein of what you are, but from a different matter, you've got to have consistency to get the quality you're looking for.
We struggle with training. And I think being remote makes that much more difficult to train people. You gotta be, people, you can do it over Teams. Yeah, you can do it over Teams, but it's not the same. And I think there's a level of quality that is lost when you train over Teams. But it's brave new world, as they say. So figure it out.
My last question: what's Singer going to look like in the next 3 to 5 years?
Well, I hope it looks a lot like it does today, only bigger. We are, trying to, like every other business, we're trying to grow the business. We've got a great leader in Fred Singer. He's got a definite perspective and philosophy on where he wants the company to go. He's very focused on quality and relationships. From my perspective, I think the company is awesome, and I just want to see it grow.
Yeah, it's great.
What we've got right now. Look, that's hard. The bigger you get, the harder it is to keep your standards, the harder it is to keep your consistency. We both can vouch for that, so it's a big challenge, but I think that we're up to it.
Sometimes most people think the climb is the hardest part. Sometimes the climb is not the hardest part. It's maintaining it once you get there.
Yeah.
We both lived through the climbing part, and that's just go. And if that doesn't work, go harder. And that's all you did. But sometimes once you get there, trying to maintain it becomes even harder than the journey up the hill.
Yeah, which, that just in my mind, that really emphasizes the necessity to have a consistent training, a consistent philosophy. Look, succession planning is something everybody has to do. You're getting bigger, not necessarily that somebody's retiring, but I'm now bigger. I've got people who are moving up. I need somebody to take their place, do the job they were doing. If they don't have the same dedication, commitment, and level of skill and training that you have, then you start suffering, and eventually that becomes, like you said, the climb's not the hard part. It's maintaining it.
Sure. And understanding that for each person that you have on your team, there's a spot where they are a great fit.
Yeah.
And it may not be the next one up. We proved years ago in the restaurant business, a good general manager doesn't make a good director. Not necessarily, and so sometimes it's figuring out where do I have a person in the best spot, and if I move them, it's going to hurt them and hurt me, Yeah,
I'm a big fan of the Peter Principle. I don't know if you've read that book or not, but it is. I'm a huge believer in that. You have to figure out, and look, you needed a body, so hey, I'll promote an AGM to GM because I got to get this restaurant open. And they fail as a GM, they're not going to go back to being an AGM. They're going to go to a different company as a GM,
right?
Fail again. Being able to have the training and the conversations with people and really mentoring people to understand that, this is the best spot for you right now. Maybe not in, a year, 3 years, 5 years, whatever. You can certainly grow your skill set, but right now you're not ready for that promotion. And that's a challenge, especially in today's market.
It's a hard conversation to have.
People will leave a company in a heartbeat if they feel like they've been slighted, so it's really difficult. Really.
Well, Raymond, I certainly appreciate the time. It's good catching up.
I appreciate the opportunity, Danny. Always good to talk to you.
I look forward to what happens at Singer, and we'll keep in touch as we always have for many years.
Yep.
Thanks. You got it. Thank you, sir.